Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
What's up, everybody? This episode is brought to you by Atlas, and I'm so excited because Atlas is sponsoring us officially.
No, Will, it's not Atlas. It's all under TravelNet.
TravelNet. Brandy, no, it's Track.
No, guys, Atlas and Track are part of TravelNet Solutions. Did you guys not read the media page?
Well, the next ad read on the media page says Resorts and Lodges, so...
Resorts and Lodges is also part of TravelNet Solutions. They're all together.
That makes so much more sense.
Doesn't it? And they're the ones that are now sponsoring Good Morning Hospitality.
Well, welcome, TravelNet.
Yes. Thank you for sponsoring us. And I promise we do have our together.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, you two.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy
like
Monday.
Happy Monday. It's like being back in Vegas, the three of us. We made it.
I know. Oh my God. Yeah, this is the first time it's been just the three of us since then. That's crazy.
Yeah. Good old Michael Golden, for anyone who's on the live. He is in Scotland right now. That was a horrible attempt to an accent, but he's in Scotland, and he's he was, I think, able to join, but I don't know if it would have been beneficial if he joined because he would have been so busy and there'd been people around. So yeah, good call to just keep the three of us. And welcome, of course, Jamie, back from Costa Rica. How was it?
It was great. First vacation in a while. Left my computer at home. Stayed at an amazing boutique hotel. Stayed at a short-term rental on the coast. Like, man, I love hospitality. Actually had this stayed at this place. A shout out to Jennifer at Canopy Tree Houses in Monteverde. Didn't expect that I'd get into a pricing discussion with a hotel operator, but I feel like I can't help myself when she I haven't raised rates in 7 years and I'm thinking about that I need to increase my ADRs. I'm like, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Jamie has a seizure.
Did she know that you were from AirDNA? And
no.
Did she know who AirDNA was when you told her?
No.
Oh, man.
She had like 7 tree houses in the woods and like they were just awesome. I was like, let's talk through it. And like a website from 2008, not on any OTAs. Like, wow. Like she's like, my occupancy is just so volatile. Like I get some bookings, I don't get others. Like I just go weeks at a time without a guest. I'm like we need to get you out there. Like,
yeah, dynamic pricing. Let's go. That's wild. Well, shout out to her, and hopefully she takes that advice. I can't imagine a treehouse would be hard to get booked. So
yeah. And then took the son to Monster Jam yesterday when we got home. So if you've never been to Monster Jam, man, that was my first time. Quite the experience.
What is Monster Jam?
It's those monster trucks crushing cars and doing races. It's monster trucks.
It's monster trucks. Typical boy activity. I can't imagine any young guy just being like, oh, this sucks. No, that sounds like fun. I want to go right now. Let's just end the podcast. I'll meet you guys there. And
it is every 5-year-old's dream. Yes, is monster trucks. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Brandy, how was your weekend? Did you have a good time? Obviously you didn't go to Costa Rica, but
No,
hard to
I was
beat.
not in
Hard
Costa
to beat.
Rica. I'm in Boston currently. I went to college up here, so visiting some college friends. We had pretty good weather most of the time. It was really fun. So it's a nice. I can't say it was a relaxing trip, but it was very fun.
Can't say it was relaxing. Yeah, it's true. True. No, let's I like Jamie. I can only imagine how great it felt to not bring your laptop on a trip for the first time in a long time. It's like, oh man, just thinking about it, I'm like,
You know.
I love it.
Travel's great.
Well, yeah, travel's good. Did you have no issues, either of you, for flights, lodging, anything like that? Everything seems to go smooth.
Yeah.
I had a
Cool.
little bit of trouble with my rent-a-car and needing to change some wheels, fix some flat tires, but I feel like
I
that's
saw that.
pretty typical for Costa Rica and the roads out there. So no big deal.
That makes sense. Good for you though for doing. I would have like called them like, you come change this right now. I'm not doing it. I love it. Well, we have some news and stories to cover this week. It was a pretty busy week, I would say. Not a lot on the side of funding and acquisitions, but more in the sense of some, I would say, interesting stories and some that we're going to jump into a little bit. But I'm kind of curious on where do you guys want to begin? We have our media sheet in front of us. I know we have one topic to save for the end, but I'm kind of interested in maybe jumping in on like a soft story and then working our way up to kind of like the crazy stuff.
Yeah. Ease our way into Monday morning.
Yeah. Well, first one, I would say Airbnb. They add Starwood Capital to their landlord program, apparently. So going into the urban, quote unquote, Airbnb friendly apartments. Any thoughts? Because I know, Jamie, we kind of discussed a little bit too on commercial real estate and how that's becoming a big topic of this big, I guess, what do you call it? Collapse, failure? What do you want to call it?
Yeah. And Starwood Capital is one of the largest owners of apartment real estate in general. So the fact that Airbnb is getting them on board onto their landlord program is a big deal for them. I know they've been exploring putting more and more of their apartments into the short-term rental and ecosystem. So, and finding operators and bring them on themselves, like it's great to see big institutional capital really embracing our sector, and is only going to mean good things in the future, I would think. Brandy, you agree?
I do and I don't, because I think I do agree that it's great that more institutional partners are getting involved. Every kind of partnership like this adds a little bit more legitimacy to the space. I think from an operation side, I just cannot imagine how these are going to work in the way that they have them set up currently. There are a couple buildings in Miami that currently have an agreement like this, and I just think that if there's hundreds, maybe thousands of people in the bigger buildings that can rent out their unit for whatever amount of time, and they're doing it themselves, it's going to create, I think, a lot of problems. But I'll be curious to see. I think that the most logical thing would be like, okay, this building has a short-term rental program, and if you want to go away for the week and you want to put your apartment in, you can, put your unit into the program, and like the building manages it. But yeah, we'll see. It's not my job to figure out the operations, so I'm curious.
What I hear though is that you're not excited about maybe more competition in the Miami market.
Yeah, that's also part of it. But I mean, I love the idea of people being able to subsidize their rent, and I'm all for that. I just think that there's this negative connotation associated with our entire industry because of like people renting quote Airbnbs. And I just don't think that adding all of these unprofessional operators to the mix is going to help that.
Well, we all saw what happened with Nido, and that was a complete dumpster fire of an attempt at this, where every lease was operated by the lease signer. So it wasn't operated by the building, but the building did get a big portion of the revenue generated from each unit. Now, I would think the opposite approach, which is a good approach, I think, Brandy, you're talking about, from what I've looked into, and to be honest, I'm actually even thinking about doing when my lease expires here at my building currently, is going into like a central property that is like operated by the building, like you said, because of the amount of times I travel per month, I'm like home for maybe 3 to 4 weeks at a time. If I am, if not, then it's like I'm gone for 2. Why not put into a rental program where I can, lower my cost of living, which sounds fantastic, but who knows on the operational side. So yeah, Nito was the example of like a really bad attempt, I think, in my opinion. Yeah. And I met a couple of the, like, I guess, hosts inside the building when I was visiting in Nashville, and man, it was horrible to see, like, they were there all day long and they're just like doing all the laundry and they're trying to figure all this stuff out, and they had no support from any professional side. They just like had to figure it out, and it was a nightmare to watch. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Another one, AirDNA. So AirDNA is saying the U.S. demand is stronger than ever for short-term rentals. So I would love to know, Jamie, let's maybe dive into some of this before we get into the crazy stories that we have some lined up for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and maybe I'll weave this into our fact of the week too. Knock out 2 birds with 1 stone.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
So while I was on vacation, our team released the March figures, which I've gone and checked it. They did a good job with that while I was out. Always great when the numbers can go out and you don't have to be there to supervise it, check it. So March overall for the industry was another decent month. Demand up 16% year over year. So 16% more nights being stayed in March this year than last year. Supply, though, it was another month where supply growth outpaced demand growth. So supply was up 20% year over year. Brandy, I see you shaking your head like, yep, supply is up 20%.
Yep.
And so occupancies are still down across the country. On average, down 2%. A lot of markets seeing and well north of that, some 10, 15% down in terms of occupancy year over year. And that's really hurting pricing power in many markets. On average, revenue per available listing was flat. So that's half the listings around the country seeing declines, half seeing increases. So really depends on your market. Sort of pick your own adventure in terms of whether you're seeing good growth or you're seeing pretty big declines. So there's no sort of one size fits all in terms of industry trends right now. Really sort of divergent trends out there. But as we look out, and sort of for me, seeing demand still up 16%, even when there's sort of people talking about an impending recession, and we're seeing banks collapse. We're seeing a lot of negative news. Sentiment's actually still pretty weak around there. But as we look out for the summer, or at least through Q2, demand still up 10% higher than last summer. And last summer was a great summer for travel. Booked revenues up 15% compared to the same time last year. And people are still booking. So March 2023, we saw more nights booked for future travel than any month in the entire history in the U.S. So 21 million nights booked. That was March is typically the strongest month for booking activity. And so it was the strongest month ever. We're up 11%. And then, so that was our fact of the week. And just to sort of quantify that with some other trends out there. So I listened to all the airlines do their earnings calls, and they did them over the past couple weeks. So both Delta and United posted their expectations for Q2, which Q2 is like the big quarter for travel. Delta expects their revenues to be up 15 to 17%, international travel up 20% year over year. United expects 15% up for revenues on Q2 as well. International travel up 30%. So, and typically in terms of the big booking lead times, like airlines see things further out in advance than lodging does. People typically book their flights first and then their lodging second. So the fact that all the airlines are expecting summer travel to just 15, 20% up, I think that sort of cements that we're in for a sort of a strong summer in terms of overall travel.
Well, I hope you're right.
I'm like, yes, I love that.
Well, it's like, because we're also talking about, the lack of business travel coming back, right? And the number one reason I think we're seeing is because the cost of travel is so damn expensive now, especially with flights. We were talking, for the three of us to go to Barcelona, it was $6,000 for our flights, and that was insane. Like, just to book, it was like $2,000 a piece. Like, I've never paid $2,000 for a flight in my life. So the fact that it was, that much to go for a week, which granted is like a little bit of a longer time, but still, anyways, the amount of business travel conversations about like not coming back versus just leisure travel being a boom this summer is really interesting, because I wonder how many people are actually classifying, and I hate the term leisure, but like how many people are actually classifying as like, oh, like, I'm bringing my family, but I do have a whatever type of meeting or client dinner or some kind of business tangled in it. It would be interesting to find out, like, if they're really leisure travel, bookings or whatever you want to call it, trips. But yeah, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the business travel that I think is probably going to stay more depressed is the kind of general commercial, like send everyone everywhere for any kind of meeting. You might have done that before without really thinking about it, especially maybe at bigger corporations. When a bigger company decides to really scale back on that kind of travel, that impacts like other companies of that size. So like, for example, I mean, they wouldn't do this, but like if Deloitte was like, okay, we're not sending everybody all the time, that has a much bigger impact. And I think, now you can always ask like, okay, can this be accomplished on a Zoom call? And, maybe you go out once a quarter for like the big meeting or whatever. Like, I think I don't think we're ever going to see the return of such aggressive and kind of like willy-nilly business travel, especially if things are getting so expensive.
And maybe I hit on the positives. Business travel is booked much shorter in advance. Like business travel, it's usually like 1 or 2 weeks. Business travel is usually one of the first expenses in corporations to get cut. And I'm already starting to hear from corporations doing travel freezes of non-essential travel being cut back on. And that can have some major implications, especially for hotels, as they're much more business travel centric than short-term rentals. And that's a big risk as we look out over Q2 and Q3, which are big and periods for obviously business travel. And if there is some economic weakness, and the major economic forecasting shops are still forecasting a recession starting in Q3. So there's a big risk there. And even if they don't start doing major layoffs, but that they cut back on travel expense, and that could be a detriment to our sector.
Yeah.
Damn. Q3, watch out. Maybe maybe I cancel a couple of trips I have on the books. Let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Or conversely, it's the best time to book because things will be cheap. So you never know.
and sort of backing up the affordability thing that Brandy was talking about, we are seeing some pushback on terms of the high rates that both hotels and short-term rentals are seeing now. So maybe demand's looking strong, but if you want to sort of maintain that and dropping prices 5-10%, and it might be what's needed to sort of keep occupancies where they're at. So with the increased competition that's out there with all the supply, and that could push price wars out, and you're having to compete more on price to get the guests at your property. And we're, I think, going to see more and more weakness in terms of ADRs throughout this year. So they're so much higher than they were pre-COVID. We've seen a lot of pricing power for both hotels and short-term rentals, and there's a chance that there could be some pushback on that, and people either trading down. So I'm not going to go for luxury. I'm going to go for upscale, or pushing down either even into the economy sectors of still want to do the trip, but I'm willing to stay at a less nice place to be able to accommodate that. and that could introduce some weakness there.
Jamie, I want you to come on next time and tell me that ADRs are going to skyrocket, specifically in South Florida.
Would you believe me if I said that?
No, but you just little lies.
Little lies. Well, we did talk about, like, going off the expectation of 2019 or what? Yeah, it was like the 2019 numbers or 2021 numbers. So, as long as we don't go super far backwards, that's
yeah.
I think we're okay. I think we'll be okay. Since we covered business travel into the U.S. demand piece, this is one story that I am glad we didn't cover when the fake announcement of their acquisition came out. I don't think we did. Thank God, because we probably would have to like backtrack and like go delete some stuff. Just kidding. We would never do that. But basically, this company called Letting Cloud announced a couple weeks ago that they were acquired by Airbnb. And then all of a sudden, a few days later, I think we saw that Airbnb completely disregarded like that acquisition, and that they said that was not true. They have no idea who that company is, who that founder was. And then to add that on top of their what do you call it, the decline of the actual acquisition, they said that we had nothing to do with it. The founder has also now been quoted or I guess detected of crowdfunding fraud on top of it, and making fake company or fake employee profiles, adding it to LinkedIn, and pitching investors for almost $500,000 in fundraising. And so I don't have the story screenshot, but anyone listening or watching the live, we have all the stories and links in the show notes, so you can make sure that you find this story. But basically, that was a huge fraud case story of just like someone creating some BS, and yeah, the PR like picked it up so quick. And yeah, I would love your guys' maybe thoughts, because I know we kind of read some of this over the week.
I just think it's crazy, like when people have the audacity to say things like this. Like, it's not like a small company is saying some other unknown company bought them. They're like, oh, one of the most well-known hospitality brands in the world acquired us. And it's like, what do you think the game plan? Like, what do you think the end result is going to be? The Airbnb is just going to be like, sure, yeah, that must have slipped by. Like, I think that these people get so wrapped up in their own bubble of their own, this narrative that they create, that like there's only two ways out, and both ways are like destruction, but one of them is like okay, I'll rein myself in, and the other one is just like, let's go out with a bang and see what happens. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's insane that he got away with it, in the sense of pulling off the PR piece that no one fact checked this, like, hey, at all. Like, hey, this company that no one's ever heard of has just now been acquired, and like, what? How do you get how do you get away with that? I was so glad we didn't cover this and be like, hey, look at this new acquisition happening in the space. It was like, oh, all of us, I think, in our group chat were like, who is this? And it doesn't sound like anything we would. I don't know. Let's just. I think Michael Golden technically said, let's keep our eye on this one just in case it looks weird, like something around that, in the sense of like something was off, and he was right. So for all those who are listening, we showed the story. It's on the screen. It's a little screenshot there. But he also raised like $500,000 in crowdfunding, which was nuts to me. He created 4 or 3 fake profiles, their CMO, their CTO, and some other position, linked it to the company's LinkedIn profile, and basically pitched investors on this random company that pretty much doesn't exist. So pretty crazy. Be careful out there, kids. Make sure you check your sources. Do your
due diligence.
Yeah, seriously. Going into our final topic / story of the week. One I will let you two lead on first before I just completely trash on it. But Hopper, actually, yeah, Brandy, you go ahead and share
Because I've taken the position of Switzerland. So basically, the story that came out is on Skift was that Hopper has a tipping scheme. When you go through the checkout process, you can opt out of tipping, and so this is something that they've had, has been a part of their, booking journey for a while, but it's become a bit more of a story now, and that we're have the sides of, are we tipping for everything versus this is just a fee that they have. So that's kind of like setting the stage. I think this just like kind of touches a hot nerve, especially in kind of like the US pop culture right now of having to over like a tip for everything. So being the moderator, I'm going to give this over to Jamie for the defense.
So, and broadly, I see this as like the OTAs charging fees. Like every OTA charges fees. They have to charge fees to make money. My understanding is Hopper is still not profitable. They're still, but they're one of the OTAs that is actually doing innovation in the sector. And this came from one of the things that they launched on flight prediction to give potential bookers an idea of whether the prices were going to get higher or lower. It was something they charged for, and then stopped charging for it, or at least made it optional. And it's just another OTA fee. Maybe they should have maybe named it something different instead of a tip of like a optional fee or something like that. But so much of the stuff that they're doing of price lock, of price guarantees, of different insurances, and they're definitely innovating in the space, creating new ways to make money, and generally I'm okay with OTAs charging fees when they're innovating and creating new things and new ways for people to book and experience travel. So,
all right, well,
okay.
Let's hear it.
So, being an OTA, you don't need to be creative in doing fees or tipping, in my opinion. I think you just need to be an OTA. Put your service fee on there, just like Airbnb or Vrbo or whoever they are. Do the fee, make it straight up, because this fee for Hopper isn't an opt-in, it's an opt-out. So, quarter of the people that are tipping, do they actually know that they're adding a tip for Hopper? And Hopper's price lock guarantee is complete BS, in my opinion. I've done it and it did not work. They released my trip after like 24 hours with no notice, and they're like, oh, you didn't book your trip, so now the price is not locked. And it's like, what? Why did I just pay like $30 to have this guarantee of like a week's long locked price? So anyways, before I rant on there, I think they're trying to appeal towards like this young, like the very low end of the millennium totem pole to then like the Gen Z, the Zoomer generation, which is all about like cheap flights and cheap travel and just wanting experiences, where I think if they really are wanting, like, their prices are no different than going on Expedia or Booking.com, in my opinion. I don't see much of a price difference, and if there is, it's so minimal that it's not worth, like, why would I, okay, $10, it's not going to impact my trip budget, versus if I book with someone who I have loyalty with, which could be Expedia with their points program, or Booking with their Genius program, or anything like that. So I think, just be an OTA, stop trying to be creative, and this tipping culture of, tipping for unnecessary things is just so out of hand, where if you turn around your iPad and make me tip you for doing your job, sorry, it's probably not going to happen unless you really did connect with me and do like an outstanding service. Outside of that, I think tipping is just getting way too crazy right now. Rant over. All right.
Great, lovely rant. And I, as Switzerland, I do like, I really think that in general that this is just a poor kind of naming situation, and like they should have called it something else. I think tipping implies that you have, like, there really has been a service, like a kind of, a connection of some kind, like you said, and that you've gone above and beyond what the baseline of that job is and need an extra compensation for that. But if the amount that people are charging is like a couple dollars, just include that as your fee. And then if you're the OTA, like, especially let's say as an operator, if I'm getting charged for that fee, right? At some point, like I would love it if it's a small fee, you know what I mean? If you just make it,
100%.
just make it consistent and just make it constant. And it's I think that this probably caught them off guard because they've been doing it for a while. And, Skift just launches this and now we're talking about it. And, it's, I think it's definitely just kind of like maybe bad PR. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to fees, because to Jamie's point, like they're a company that is relatively young, they're trying to make money. So just charge it. Like people can pay for the service that you're providing and you don't have to make it optional. Gen Z will still book with you if they think it's, if it fits with their values and what they're looking to book. So, I hope that they change the name. It's not great.
So, Brandy, have you seen Hopper make any inroads in your market? So in Miami, I know that they were pushing hard there. Like,
yeah, so we're on Hopper in Miami. We have it's not like a massive portion of our revenue. We have seen some increases. There's just from like an operation side, there's some things that are a little bit difficult with working within that platform, but I think that that's just kind of a new company kind of figuring out the logistics, and it's why they partly started in like only a couple of markets. So we'd love to keep sending that my way. I'd love it. If they want to start in New Orleans, happy to beta test there. And I think they have the programs, I think, with Capital One. And so having a good credit card partner is essential. So I think that, this is just an unfortunate blip. Change the name and just kind of focus your attention on improving the experience for your suppliers and for your customers. Like that's where all the attention should be.
I think they raised a big majority of their funding from Capital One, and then so to kind of give some context too, when I booked that locked hold price, it was through my Capital One rewards, and it was a whole thing, and like it was not the best experience, but I think if they could, like I agree with Brandy. I'll be a less, dog on them for a little bit, in the sense of if you do just provide like a really good service, I'm happy to use the program. Just like you said, like if it's good and the quality of the experience and the trip is good and it's not like a chaotic mess when like the airline doesn't know who I am when I show up and like we don't have your ticket, or like I've had that experience in the hotel world where people would book through an OTA and due to the poor lack of technology on the back end, it wouldn't push through to property, and then now you're left with a unhappy guest who has potentially no room or no seat or whatever the scenario might be. So as long as it's a good experience, I'm sure, and Gen Z people or whatever are very happy to go the route of value oriented rather than price, and their disposable income may not be the craziest, but they're more willing to probably just blow the money anyways, whether it's actually cheaper on Hopper than it is on Expedia or Booking, so, or even Airbnb. So I think if you can just appeal to that, stop reinventing the wheel on fees and just run a business. run it like a normal site. That'd be great. Anyways, is that enough ranting? Hopefully the listeners aren't going to be like, wow, Will's a douche.
But we're not getting sponsored by Hopper anytime soon.
Sorry, guys. I just ruined that one for us. Hopefully Capital One maybe will come in on that. Just be like, hey, you got to backtrack that a little bit. Well, anything else for the sake of the episode? Or I think we're a little over time, but we still got a couple live viewers on, so maybe just any closing thoughts for you guys?
No, I am really interested to see, like, if in a couple months we can look back with Jamie's prediction of, like a strong summer. I'm very hopeful, although, Florida doesn't necessarily have, or Miami doesn't have strong summer months. So if that's true, I'll be very surprised pleasantly. But I am curious, like, sincerely about what the ADR growth or lack of growth is going to look like for the rest of the year, because we still haven't seen kind of like, I think we've talked about how this is more of like a normal year, whatever that means. So it'll just be interesting, I think, kind of at the end of the year to reflect back on whether these predictions were true or not.
Yeah, and great plug. I just committed to speaking at the Skift STR Forum in New York in June. And we're going to be launching our latest forecasts there. And we're going to break those out in a bunch of different ways. So that's going to be a fun one coming out that I'll be up in New York for.
Awesome.
Very excited. Hopefully I'll be able to attend that next year if they do it. But it sounds like a good conference to attend. It's just so many of them, and talking about business travel. I don't know. Are we going to hold on there for a second? But yeah, very excited. I'll be in Miami this week. Brandy and I get to hang out a little bit, and then get to do a special project that I can't share the details on, but it's gonna be fun. Can't wait. Thanks for everyone who tuned in on the live, and if you're listening on the replay or on the audio side, we of course appreciate you. Want to make sure that if you like any of the stories, or if you have any suggestions on more topics to dive into, we would love to hear from you. And then of course, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you all again next week.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.